Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the YouTube channel of Ultimate Fishing International. My name is Sietze Hendriks and not only welcome to our YouTube channel, but also welcome to Belle Île en Mer. It literally means beautiful island in the sea. We're in one of our boats on the beautiful Atlantic coastline. And today we're gonna take you along with us and talk about one of our favorite products in the lineup, which is from Madness, the Madshad. We're going to show you how to use them in several different spots, several different types of fish activity. See if you can get some nice, beautiful big bass on them. The conditions are beautiful. It's pretty bumpy, quite a bit of swell. That usually makes the fish very active. The Madshad is a lure with a lot of vibrations. And it's a lure that's perfect for this situation. And let's see if we can get a few. See you soon. Right, so we're fishing the upcoming tide. There's a huge current line and two very big rocks. As you can see, the swell creates a beautiful movement. The fish are usually quite active in these situations, and it's in this situation we use a technique called cranking. The French call it cranking, but it's mainly, simply put, it's a straight retrieve. Because the Madshad, it creates a lot of turbulence. It's almost like retrieving a hard bait sometimes on the tip of your rod. Technique is very simple. You make a long cast. Because of the current, I give it a little bit of slack line, and then on the tight line, let it touch the bottom one time. There we are, and then quite fast, one steady straight retrieve. And for some reason, it's very important to not switch the tempo. And it's even more important that if you have a bite until it's really on, not to set the hook. With this technique, the fish always come from behind. And if you set the hook on every little touch you feel, every little bite you feel, you risk pulling it away from them. So keep on reeling, even if you know it's on. And only when you feel the weight, then a nice strong sweep, set the hook. So once again, I'll let it go down to the bottom. A spot like this, we're quite happy with the ribs and a very good captain. It's very fishy, but you have to be very careful in these situations. That's the bottom. Just keep the same speed, quite fast. Aiming on a reaction strike from the fish. Depending on the depth of the spot and depending on how snaggy it is, you can obviously play a little bit. I'm letting it go down to the bottom now, but you can also count. If you know the bottom is 20 seconds, wait 10 seconds. So you're fishing halfway down and so on, until you cover all the layers until you found the fish. Poisson, fish, fish. Yes. Very nice one. What a fight in the current.
Oh, very nice one.
Oh, what? That is one hell of a fish.
Okay.
You're here?
I'm here.
Yes! Oh!
Oh. That's a fish.
All right, there we go. I think we've just been fishing for 10 minutes, second drift. One very angry. What a beautiful fish. Very strong bite. As you can see, it's quite a hectic spot. Amazing fight. Completely choked down the Madshad, 130. have switched spots. The first spot delivered a beautiful fish while cranking. Now it's very deep here, it's about 25 to 30 meters, but we're casting to an underwater rock pile, which I've just hit, which is about 6 to 7 meters deep. And we're going to use a technique called traction, or traction as my co-workers would say. And it's, you let the lure go down to the bottom, and with a slow movement of the rod, you lift it, you pick up the slack and let it go down again. Depending on the lure, it can be very slow. Sometimes you want to make very long movements. Just watch out that when you go too high, it's going to be very hard to still set the hook. Let it go down again. I just fell off the bump. So then we retrieve, fairly similar style to the cranking we've just done. It would not be the first time that a fish came after it after you fished it the traction way. So the trick is with this technique as well, also with a fairly big lure, the Madshad 130, is that it's producing a little bit bigger stamp of fish on average. The quicker you fish, the smaller they get. Obviously not always. And by fishing it like this, the fish are on the rock pile like I described. And you're almost letting it drop in their mouth, and they only need to open their mouth, and that's it. Missed a bite there, unfortunately. So now we're almost on top of the rock. So it went from 25 to 30 meters to 10 to 12 meters. As you can see by the boat on top of the rock, a bit more swell, but that's what the big fish like. So when we're fishing the same rock pile, when we just passed over the rock pile, we've noticed there were quite a bit of fish on there. And given the signals, they looked like very nice bass. So we replaced the drift to get a better presentation. Let the lure go down again and continue with the same slow traction. Usually the bigger fish, a bit like me, the bigger they are, the lazier they get. Fish, good fish, lovely bite. I'm not sure if it's big, but the bite was very big. Not so big, very big bite. Flying sea bass, yes. Thank you, Captain. Not so happy sea bass number 2, and hooked itself. Again on the Madshad, lovely fish. First time was cranking, this time was a very slow traction from my co-workers. Lovely black fish, very happy. Let's put him in the live well. We've seen quite a bit of signals. Same as the perch on freshwater, they can definitely spook each other. So until we finish the drift, we'll let him swim with his friend in the live well. Alright, so we finished our little session. Unfortunately, we are on the back end of the rising tide, so we didn't have too much time. Luckily, I managed to show you 2 very effective ways to fish the Madness Madshad, with the result of 1 big beautiful bass and 1 very nice smaller one. Now it's time to talk tackle and tactics a little bit. Hey, as you can see, it is a little bit bumpy out here. So I'm gonna take you back to the studio. We have some very nice place next to the fire, and we're gonna talk you about the rigging, about the tackle we've used, the tactics. See you inside. All right, so welcome to our little studio, guys. We've just got off the boat. We enjoyed a lovely afternoon on the water. Got a beautiful bass and another very nice smaller one. Like I promised you on the boat, we're gonna take a few minutes to explain you the tackle and a bit more the reasoning behind some of the choices in terminal tackle as well. When it comes to fishing the Madshad, and in particular the cranking or the linear technique, and also for the traction. For the people who are not really familiar with the Madshad from Madness, it is a baitfish sized sardine or any other baitfish sized shad. Compared to most Japanese shads, it has a very tough body. It's quite a resilient, quite a little bit stiffer, for example, in particular compared to like the one-up shads and certain those type of shads. There's three sizes. There's a 130, 13 centimeters, 100, and as a mainly shore fisherman myself, one of my favorites, the 85 when they're on the small bait. Why are they stiffer? And why do we like these shads so much? Because the body shape, and especially in conjunction with the Ulti-head from Xorus, they vibrate like crazy underwater. They have a very strong flanking action. They make a lot of noise, they have a lot of resistance. Like I briefly mentioned on the boat, when you're retrieving them cranking style, it almost feels sometimes as if you're fishing a hard bait on the tip of your rod. And that is something that is extremely effective when either the conditions are rough, the fish are very active, or sometimes even to piss off inactive fish. You can go subtle, works very well, but sometimes if you go a bit more aggressive, that's very effective as well. So this is a lure that we will either begin the session with to see if the fish are active, especially with the cranking technique when you let it hit the bottom once and retrieve it quite fast in one diagonal line up to the boat or in deeper water, even from the shore. We fished from the boat today. This is by no means a boat technique. You just obviously have to switch your the weights of your Jighead a little bit. We're not going to use 45 grams from the shore. But it covers all the layers real quick. It's aggressive, it makes a lot of noise, so you will quite rapidly figure out if there are fish active. If they are active, keep on going by any means with the Madshad. If you found the fish or if the fish switch off a little bit, then it's time to go with other techniques. The second reason is because it's quite a big bait, quite a big profile, and with the vibration, in particular with the traction technique, you can fish it super slow and while it still holds a very big profile and big vibrations. And like we explained, if you lift it real slow, you almost let it drop in the mouth of one of the bigger fish. And that is super effective. Right. For the people who are familiar with the Madshad, you will notice that in my hand I am holding a new color. It's going to be for this season. It is the Madshad White. There's another color coming, same as the white, although it will probably be sold in France. It's mainly a request from the Netherlands, the United Kingdom and Ireland. There will also be a white chart, the very popular white and bright yellow. Unfortunately, at this time, we're still in the testing stage and I want to be sure it is absolutely perfect before we launch it. So at this moment, I cannot show it to you, unfortunately, but there will be finally a white and a white chart one. When we're talking about colors, I think it is a good moment to discuss a little bit on how and when we pick which color. Obviously, white and sea bass are a match made in heaven. It's a very popular color in all types of lures, whether they are surface lure, hard bait, soft bait. And the white chart in particular in the Benelux and the UK and Ireland is very popular. But the other colors. I've picked 5 other colors. The range is a lot more vast, but colors obviously are very dependent, even in France, between one part of Brittany or Cornwall, Devon, Dorset. There might be a difference in either personal preference or the type of bait fish, the type of bottom, and that plays a very big part. In the video from today, the best performer was the Secret Iwashi. Iwashi is Japanese for sardine, for the people who don't know it, and this color in particular is used when there are sardines around, bright blue skies and very clear water. Although in the Madness Madshad range, It is a very sardine-orientated bait, but do not let that stop you. In the Netherlands, I don't think the North Sea has seen a sardine in the last few decades, at least not in any reasonable quantities, and it is one of my favorite lures from the shore, even in the sardine colors, and the color selection still stands. So this is very important to keep in mind when picking the colors, and do not think it's just for sardines. Secret Awashi, blue skies, clear water, and especially when there are sardines around, but not exclusively. Then we get Dorado Iwashi. Dorado Iwashi is a very interesting one, especially for the UK market as well. This is a lure that is used either when the conditions are very foamy, so not like in the video today. So when the conditions are very foamy, or when the water is very milky, for example in Normandy, or exactly the other side of the channel where you have the chalk, the famous white cliffs of Dover, but also in Le Havre. Quite often the water gets very milky. It's not murky, you still have visibility, but it gets that bluish, greenish hue. And that's when the Dorado Iwashi comes into play. The mackerel, I don't think I need to go very in depth on when and why you pick this. If there's mackerel, take a mackerel. Next, the black Iwashi. Black Iwashi is, especially because of the bottom and the watercolor we have at home in the Netherlands, but also in the UK, one of my favorite colors, even when the fish haven't seen a sardine since their migration in the winter. This is a lure you use on, or the color that's mainly used on very dark bottom, when there's a lot of seaweed, a lot of bladderwrack, a lot of kelp around, and also when the water is quite murky, because it's a very bright, very light color. When the fish are a bit finicky, when it's really murky, the white or the white chart in the future would be a very good option as well. But if it's not super murky, the fish have seen a lot of lures, and you try to imitate and match with the bottom as well, the bottom contours, especially with a lot of seaweed, this is one of the best options. Last but not least, at least in my top 5 and future top 7 with the white and the white chart, is the cabot, or cabot as people in the UK would pronounce it. Cabot is quite famous in the estuary range and the Pachinko range for calm conditions, bright blue skies, and a lot of sunshine. It is by far the most subtle color in the lineup, and this would be fished in the same situations as the Secret Awashi, for example. But the Secret Awashi, as you've seen yesterday, fishes very well in the swell or when there's sardines around. And this is a little bit more of a general bait fish presentation. It can pass for mullet, it can pass for a lot of things. So if you're scared that your fish haven't seen or your spot doesn't hold any sardines, or if you want to go even more subtle, the cabot is the way to go. The Madshad fishes in particular very well with one type of jighead, which is made specially for this shad, which is from Xorus, the Ultihead Evo. The Ultihead, although it's under the Xorus flag, it comes with a super sharp decoy jig 11 hook, and it can handle the biggest fish. The way the shape of the head is designed is not only to fit perfect on the lure, but also to aid in the vibration and the swimming action. There is a little trick with that. As you can probably see in my hands, most people will say I made a mistake while rigging this lure, and even when I joined the company 3 years ago, I would fully agree. In French they even call it parfaitement mal monté, which translates to perfectly wrong rigged, or rigged perfectly wrong. And it has a very specific reason. For example, this one is rigged a little bit more according to the norm, so quite straight on the hook. And with a lure that has such a wide swing and creates so much turbulence on the water, you limit quite severely the range of motion of the lure. So the action is a lot less nice. Also, because it's a bit of a stiffer lure, if you rig them straight, if the fish, because you're cranking them, so the fish come from behind, and there's quite a big chance, because it's straight on the hook, that this will happen. If you rig it perfectly wrong, like this, first of all, because the bend of the hook is completely out of the body of the lure, it has a huge range of motion. So the vibration and the action is a lot stronger like this. It's a difference you really have to test yourself to see how much of a difference it can make. But also, if the fish come from behind, the way it's orientated, it will almost exclusively push the lure down, keeping the gap of the hook and the point free. Secondly, while you're fighting the fish, the flesh of the fish when hooked will not touch or almost not touch the lure, making it a more durable option as well, because while fighting it, this part here won't tear open as quickly. Very important. I'll quickly show you how to rig it. It's a little bit different. It's super easy. So normally this is the size 100 with a 20-gram jighead. Normally you would measure, go into the center of the soft plastic, and for the full shank of the hook, go through, exit, and then glue it, and that's it. In this case, we enter a lot higher. And obviously we don't go in as far. As you can see, the full bend of the hook is outside of the body and gives it the full range of motion. It looks very weird. It looks like a 9-year-old did it, but the 9-year-old, if he did it, is a very clever 9-year-old, because this makes a huge difference when it comes to the Madshad. For both the cranking and the traction, we rig it basically the same way. As I mentioned, this is a lure that is mainly for active fish or rougher conditions. The same technique with the cranking also works, and the traction as well. If the conditions are quite calm, or you already hooked a lot of fish, competition scenarios, or it's a busy day on the water, the same principles apply with lures that have a lot more subtle motions. Like in this case, the 1-up shad, this is a 5-inch with the Becquerel head, or the spindle worm with the SV67 from Decoy, the Butchie head. Then we've handled the lure part of the cranking and the traction when fishing the Madshads. Now let's talk hardware a little bit. In particular from the boat or in rough conditions while fishing the Madshad 130 with the bigger jig heads. As you've seen in the video, the conditions are rough, big swell, and quite some big fish. And it is very important to use a for some bass fishermen, even extremely strong rod. This rod in particular is almost, well not almost, it is designed for fishing the Madshad 130 with jig heads between 25 and up to 60 grams when necessary. It's the Tenryu injection, the 7.9 heavy, the H. It has the casting range from 30 to 80 gram. And although with that rating for a rod below 8 feet, you might expect a broomstick, it is actually very soft, very progressive. And that is, like I explained in the video, never set the hook, keep on cranking till you feel the weight. And by fishing this technique, sometimes they hit it so hard if you're using one of the other rods with the same rating, even in the Tenryu lineup, which are meant for more when fishing over the bottom or even vertical jigging. The much stiffer ones, you will lose a lot of fish or even break your line on the retrieve. So very important to not only use a rod that is suitable for the heavier jig heads, the deep water, the strong current and the big fish, but also progressive enough so you don't unhook the fish and it fishes just a lot more pleasant. It kind of absorbs as well the vibrations of the lure. On this rod, despite it's below 8 feet, I would definitely go for a size 5000 reel. And the line we pick very heavy as well. Most of the people within Ultimate Fishing for our bass fishing, we fish between 0.8, 1 and 1.2 PE. For this technique, we almost exclusively go 1.5 PE. And I know even there's some guys in very extreme conditions, they go to 2 PE. And it's just because there is no give in the system. You're rod down, cranking really fast. Fish come from behind, they turn, there is a chance of a big fish. So your material needs to be up to the task. Same goes for the leader, although this might sound a bit strange for the people outside of France. For this technique, we use a very heavy leader. Might sound a little bit strange for the people outside of France because we're using 16 pound, which in the Nitland DFC is 0.34 millimeters, which for the perspective from the Netherlands or the UK is actually fairly light. But to give you a bit of perspective, in France, especially from the boat, but even from the shore, on average they fish between 7 and 10 to maximum 12 pounds, so 0.20 up to 0.30. Very long leaders to prevent breaking them off. In this case, for this technique, so for the fishing from the boat, this is considered here a very heavy leader. And even outside of France, in the UK, in the Netherlands, from the boat, I would definitely go as light as you can. But for this technique, you do really need a 16 pound. You'll also notice it's several turns around my reel in the video when landing the fish and when casting. I think sometimes maybe you could hear the knot pass through the guides as well. obviously an FG knot, otherwise it's not really possible. It's also, again, to absorb the fight and a little bit to be very stealthy. The second rod we're going to use for this, we use for this technique, especially when the conditions are calmer. We're fishing smaller lures like the Madshad 100, even the 85, but also in particular the 1-ups and the spindle worms. Is the little brother of the rod we've just had. That's the 7-9 medium heavy. A lot lighter casting range, a little bit more give in the tip, obviously because of the lower rating, but it is in the basis the same rod design, the way, the progressiveness. So both for your attraction and your cranking / linear fishing, this is a beautiful setup. You can go a little bit lighter, fishing 12-pound leader, so 0.30, PE 1.2, a 4000 sized reel. And this is for when the conditions are not as bumpy or as rough as they are today, and when the lure that you're using, not only because of the size of the jighead, the weight of the jighead, but also the resistance it gives, is just a lot lighter. Basically, that concludes our video. Two techniques, very popular in France, and although a straight retrieve does exist in almost every country in the world, I hope you've seen today and I've managed to explain that there was a lot of thinking, a lot of reasoning behind it, when to use the cranking technique, when to use the traction technique, when to pick the lures that vibrate a lot like a Madshad, and when sometimes you have to switch to something a little bit more subtle. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a thing or two, or at least enjoyed watching a nice fish in some beautiful conditions. We had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. There's loads more videos coming. See you next time on the water.